Good people need to make a lot of money because everybody that's a good person is too freaking humble and they're just hanging out in a comfortable existence. Money is an amplifier for who you are already. So if you're a dick, you're gonna be a bigger dick if you make money.
It's not passive income.
Yeah.
It's passionate income.
Correct.
What do you mean by that?
Why is everybody so obsessed with passive income if nobody wants to live a passive life? Passive income's bullshit for the most part. Instead, the goal should be, how do we become free from the work that we're forced to do to now focus on the work that we choose to do?
All right, everybody. I'm Kassidy Warren. Welcome back to For Your Own Good. I'm here with my good buddy, Brian Luebben, who has been a good friend recently. I slid into his DMs a while back and got invited up to a group event up in Whistler, which actually was pretty incredible with the people that were up there. And the thing that I took away from that is proximity's power. And it's true what they say about people that are doing great things, right? All the stuff they say, that get up early, work out, you know, don't drink, all that. Like, that was a room and a group full of people that are doing incredible things and holding true to their values. And you put that together. So I just want to say a big thank you. But yeah, welcome, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Yeah, that was super cool. That was my 30th birthday. And so what I've realized is money is an amplifier for who you are already. So if you're a dick, you're going to be a bigger dick if you make money. If you're a good person, you're going to be an even better person. So that's why my whole thing, like with doing these podcasts and doing content in general, is I'm just like, good people need to make a lot of money because everybody that's a good person is too freaking humble and they're just hanging out and they're in a comfortable existence while at the same time, the bad people are making a bunch of money because they're going to lie, cheat, and steal their way to millions of dollars. So if the bad people are already, regardless, making money, it's on us morally as good people to make even more money than them. Because then we get to flood the market and flood the world with like more goodness, right? And so a big thing for me is when I was starting all of this, it's just like I quit my job, traveled around the world. This is my long story short. In 2022, I left corporate America. And then now I full-time travel while running this company. And as I've been doing it, I did the whole like solo thing, like the solo travel. And I realized this isn't that much fun. But it's fun to an extent and to a degree. But now what my favorite thing is bringing along all the friends. And so for my 30th birthday, I was just like, wouldn't it be cool if I invited everyone? And I just freaking paid for everything. Yeah. And so I got like my dream ski chalet up in Whistler. We got like the coolest houses and we had a private chef. We had Camus. It was just a freaking time and everyone had a really good time. I think we had like 20 people or something out there. And it was the coolest, best birthday ever.
I love your message because you're doing something that other people aren't doing. And we'll get into more of the details, but you have the Action Academy, you have the Action Academy podcast, and your whole goal is to basically get people out of corporate and retire from their corporate job essentially on cash flow to corporate. But you have something else. You say it's not passive income.
Yeah.
It's passionate income.
Correct.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, passive income's bullshit. For the most part. And everybody goes through this spectrum, right? So you're in corporate America and then you get your first cash flowing investments, right? And again, cash flow is intentional. And you say, I get this passive income, man. You know, I bought this rental property, or I bought this short-term rental, I'm an LP in this multifamily deal. And God, you're just like, dude, this money comes in without me working and I'm just going to build this all up. And that used to be the goal, dude. And that's where I started, and that's where everyone starts. Like, how many times have you heard, I want $10,000 a month in passive income so I can quit my job, travel around the world, do what I want, when I want, with who I want, right? And then a coach one day asked me something that completely changed my life, which was, hey, Brian, what's the goal? And I said, hey, man, I want to, leave this $250,000 a year sales job, and I want to do it like this year. And he goes, okay, cool. Well, how much passive income do you have? And I said, I have $4,000 of passive income. And he goes, okay, well, we're $16,000 a month away from hitting our goal. I said, yeah. I was like, so it's going to take probably 5 more years for us to hit it. And then he goes, why does it need to be passive? What? Like, nobody had ever asked me that. And so my life fundamentally changed from that point because he said, you're pretty good at making money. I bet you can figure out how to make money while you travel and go live this life that you want to live. And so that's where everything started. And so I believe in cash flow. So I buy small businesses now. That's my primary thing. So I buy real estate as a wealth building vehicle, not as much a passive income vehicle. So I buy small businesses for cash flow. And I encourage people to do that and start side hustles for cash flow. And if you do invest in real estate, invest for cash flow, but it's passive income is a rarity, and there's a degree of passivity that's a spectrum. And you become more passive as you get better over time, and you build up a team. And so I say passivity is found on the other side of profits, processes, and people. So you have to become a really freaking good business owner to have like this passive income. So my big question is, why is everybody so obsessed with passive income if nobody wants to live a passive life? Because I was financially free at 27 years old, which is in the prime of my earning years. And so 27, 37, 47, you're supposed to be a money-making machine. So instead of making passivity the goal is, instead of just sitting on a beach and doing nothing and sipping Mai Tais, which is what I was doing. I lived in the Greek islands for a month. Instead, the goal should be, how do we become free from the work that we're forced to do to now focus on the work that we choose to do? So it's almost like just changing from one level of work to another level of work, because work is worth doing. We're men and we're supposed to be useful. Like, we can get into a whole masculinity conversation, but that is masculinity at its core. If I could define masculinity, it would be usefulness. Can you name anybody that is labeled as masculine that is useless? You're the protector, you're the provider, you're the supporter, you're the person that makes things happen. Like, if you're needing to go out and build a fire, you're chopping the freaking wood and you're building the fire. You're making sure the meat's on the table for your kids to eat. And that's what defines you as a man. That's what defines you as a high performer. And if you stop doing all of that, you're useless. And so why would we want that existence? So the goal isn't to be passive. The goal is to figure out what is the work that is worth working on.
So how do you help people find the work that's worth working on?
Trial and error. Seriously. So experience is, what's the quote I'm thinking of? Luck is just kicking up a bunch of dirt and dust through action. And then that's what we call luck, is all that dirt and dust that's kicked up, and that's opportunity. So I compare life to like a food court at a mall. So everybody's sitting around waiting for inspiration to strike, but that's not how it happens. What happens is inspiration is more like making sure that the soil is fertilized, so that when the seed gets planted, it can sprout. So it's almost like, don't get ready, stay ready. And so everybody's just sitting around and they're like, okay, I can't wait until I know my thing, my asset class, my purpose. That's not how it works. You don't find your wife sitting in your apartment all day. I'm speaking to me. Like, you go out and you do stuff. And then by trial and error, that is how you figure out what is your thing. And that's how you figure out what work is worth doing. So everybody thinks that they have imposter syndrome. No, they say, I've got shiny object syndrome. I tried Airbnb, then I tried multifamily, then I tried this, and I tried that. Dude, you don't have shiny object syndrome. You're just living life. That's how you figure it out. So I tell everybody the food court analogy. So I say, view investing like a food court at a mall. Go try the free samples around the food court, and then decide which one you like the most. And then you sit down and you have the full meal. So the only time that it's shiny object is if you're having momentum and it's beginning to work, and then you sacrifice that momentum for then switching to a new thing. So that'd be the equivalent of you getting the Kung Pao chicken at the Chinese place. And you're like, I love that free sample. And then you buy a whole meal and you're sitting down, and halfway through, you're like, actually, I want Chick-fil-A instead. That's shiny object. So I just recommend to everybody, I'm like, here, try this, try this, try this, try this. And you could pretty quickly, once you get into the teeth of it, figure out what things you're more naturally leaning towards, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what we did with Airbnb, is we went all in. 5 years, we just bought. Yeah. And there was nothing else that was more important. Low rates, high cash flow. We were able to buy assets in high appreciation markets, right? And then now the market shifted. We're still going to do Airbnb. It's going to be a different strategy, luxury flip more to increase and maximize the value. But what do you say to people that, and I know you have a lot of engineers in your Action Academy. I'm an engineer, but I was always told you're a different type of engineer because I'm willing to take risk. So what do you say to the engineer types or people that get stuck on cash flow or even like going and looking at an asset, going and looking at a property, going and looking at a business, putting an offer in? Like, how much effort does it take for someone to just like go put an offer in on something?
Not much. Let's segment that into two different conversations. Let's have a conversation on clarity, and let's have a conversation on risk. Because both are completely perceptual to whoever you're asking. If you ask 100 people what risk is, you're going to get 100 different answers. Same thing with clarity. But for good news is I identified it. I figured this out. This is all I do and all I think about. If there's one thing that I'm synonymous with, I'd hope that it'd be clarity. And people are clear on that. So the way that people fail and the reason that people fail is because they do clarity in the wrong order. So what they do is they ask, how do I do the thing? And then how fast do I do the thing? And then maybe one day down the line, they ask, why am I doing this thing at all? Right? Which is probably you with short-term rentals.
That's right.
Yeah. You're like, how do I buy an Airbnb? Okay. How many Airbnbs do I want to buy this year? And then 5 years later, why the hell am I buying Airbnbs at all?
Literally the pattern. Literally
Correct.
what happened. Literally what happened.
So over and over again, across all assets, across all credit scores, net worth ranges, everything. So the issue is that people don't get started because they get stuck at that first H word, how. And then they say, I don't know how to do it. Therefore, they don't try because they don't know. So they're already stuck at level 1 of the game. So what I suggest through experience is that they reverse the equation and they start with the where and the why. So I call it directional, sequential, and tactical clarity. So instead of starting with tactical first, the how, you start with directional, where, and why. So you say, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I want to go to California. Okay, cool. That's a destination. So you said, I'm going to Disney. I want to go to Disney in California. And then I'm taking the kids. You're like, yes, okay. We know where we're going. How fast do you want to get there? Do you want to get there in a month where you just walk to California? Do you want to get there in a week where you drive to California? Or do you want to get there tomorrow where you fly to California? That's sequential clarity. So you know how fast you want to get the result and how fast you want to get to the destination. Then the tactical is now the vehicle. So you would know that if you want to get to California from the East Coast to the West Coast tomorrow, you got to fly. And so which airplane are you taking? You're not going to get a car. You're not going to get a horse and buggy. You know, like it's the vehicle. And that's how you're able to decide. So a lot of people are stuck at the how when they can begin with the where, which is completely within their control, 1,000% within their control. And so that's something that I'd recommend is people starting there, creating that 3-year vision of if everything was perfect, you know, what would my life look like? And so what happens is, for example, to like land the plane here, no pun intended in that one. So I had a guy that was saying, hey, I want to quit my job and buy a business. I said, okay, sick. The how, right? Vehicle. I said, okay, so when do you want to quit your job? And he goes, this year. I go, okay, that aligns. What do you want to have happen after you quit your job? Like, where are we actually going? And he goes, well, I want to travel. Like 50% of the time, 50% of the time, be back home. I go, okay, well, that eliminates like 70% of businesses that are in person. So that gives you a like bumpers to make a decision within, because constraint is actually how you build anything. You can't, you're an engineer. So like you have to, if you don't have constraints imposed upon you, you almost have to self-impose the constraints. Because if you have limitless options, no option gets chosen, period. And so we set that constraint. I said, well, dude, let's be careful about what business we buy so that it actually supports why you're buying it. He goes, oh my God. He's like, I'm actually under contract to one right now that I'd have to be in office for. Like that's how clarity works. So now let's talk about risk. So just that clarity conversation, directional, sequential, tactical, will help a lot of people listening to this and watching this. So the next conversation is risk. So I have people come to me and they say, this is too risky, or that's risky. And risk is completely different depending on who you're talking to, right? But the main reason that people aren't buying commercial real estate is, number one, they're afraid of losing money. And number two, more importantly, they're afraid of losing other people's money. Duh. Adequate fears, right? Those are the two main fears. And so there's three definitions of fear. So one is false evidence appearing real. Number two is fuck everything and run. And number three is face everything and rise. You know, so I prefer the third option, right? So if we don't want to lose money and we don't want to lose other people's money, then we go back to how have things been done for centuries? And that's the apprenticeship model, mentorship. Today, you take an online course to learn something. But back in the day, you didn't have modules on how to become a blacksmith. You had to go swing the hammer with a master smith for years and years and years. And they were saying, hey, change the angle, change the hammer. How you're striking it is wrong. You need to do it like this. The temperature is incorrect. And they make these pivots and these adjustments, right? So it's the same thing that you would do with a big deal. So you have these engineers that come in and say, well, I've only bought an Airbnb. How would I buy a hotel like you bought? And so what we take them through in our process is pretty simple, dude. It's not anything that's proprietary. We literally say, let's put you with people that have done it before. Simply. And then when we put you with people that have done it before, then yes, you're the one that's in charge of finding the deal, probably helping them capital raise for the deal. You're probably going to help them operate the deal. You're going to play a small role in the team, and you will be the sweat equity, which I don't know a path to education that doesn't require sweat. All of them do. So there is no easy path. Like there is no fast path. So once you get the sweat equity, you go to an experienced operator and you ask them, what's your buy box? What do you need? And then you go and you either find the deal, help them fund the deal, or help them run the deal, right? You take 10 to 20% equity in exchange for doing that, and you're on their GP team, or and then you're actually helping them with the thing. And this applies to all asset classes. After that deal, now you have experience in some asset management because now you're running the thing. And then after all of that is said and done, now you can go to your friends and family and say, hey, I have experience with this. You can point to a balance sheet and say, look, like I own this assets when you're speaking to a broker. Now all of a sudden, it's not as risky because risk is found in the unknown. When you know how to do it, the risk is completely mitigated all the way down, never to zero, because real estate and any investing, period, full stop, bar none, there's risk, an element of risk associated with it. And in closing, the faster that you want to get out of your job and the more money that you want to make, the more comfortable you have to become with risk, period.
Yeah. And so you started with this whole idea of wanting to quit your corporate job and go travel the world. And now I've been watching you for a while and it feels like there's a shift going on. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. You wanted to become a $5 million CEO. And so and then a $10 million CEO. So what is it going to take for you to become a $10 million CEO?
That's a $10 million question, Kassidy. I live my life by a very simple process, and it takes away, it helps me accelerate and grow really fast. But the thing about growth that people don't understand is growth and happiness cannot coexist at the same time. Like you can have everything, you can have it all, just not at once. So happiness is a result on the tail end of growth to where you're like, wow, I really overcame that. And you're at the mountaintop, right? And you're like, yes, I did it, I summited. But the climbing of the mountain can be quite terrible. So growth produces a lot of friction and it's uncomfortable. It's not a comfortable process. So what helps me a lot is to visualize it. So it's like you've got this graph and it's got a y-axis and an x-axis, and your y-axis is the amount of growth that you're experiencing and your x-axis is time. So what most people do is it's like a very gradual, low and slow growth curve. If at all, over time, most people are kind of just stagnant, or they have one period of growth and it just flatlines. But when you experience growth like this, where it goes all the way up very, very fast, you have to integrate 10 years worth of growth into that one time period. So right now, that's how I'm feeling. I'm having 10 years of friction and integration into one time period. So whenever I'm asking the question, what is required and what do I need to do to get to the next level, I look at everybody that I know that's at that level. And if I'm not around those people, then I make it a point to surround myself with those people. So the tactical answer to the question is people, leadership, like talent, people, and processes. Like that is it. People and processes are honestly it. So I have to learn how to build a team that accomplishes functions instead of me accomplishing a function at scale. That's what I have to do. So instead of me making an Instagram reel and calling that marketing, I need to build a media team. Instead of us having a few people that are on the customer service and fulfillment side, we have to build an entire, like probably 10 to 20 person fulfillment team. And then it just goes so forth and so on. Instead of me doing LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn team. I have a LinkedIn person. I have a Twitter person. I have an Instagram person. I have a podcast person or a podcast team. And you just build the org chart. So it's just a process of elevation and delegation.
And so what has motivated you? Because you, by all accounts, achieved a lot of people's dreams, right?
I've achieved my own dreams.
That's what I mean. And so You've made the money, you have the business. What motivates you to keep growing in that way? Because you basically just described, hey, this kind of sucks right now, or this is painful.
Yeah.
I'm growing. There's a feeling that I'm seeking on the other side of this. What motivates you to keep going up that mountaintop?
So there's two different types of motivation. So there's push motivation and pull motivation. Push motivation is from pain. So it's, ow, Like, keep going. You put your hand in the fire. It's like, ow, that hurt. You keep going, or you get fired from your job. Fastest way to leave your job. So push is pain. Pull is vision, a compelling vision and a compelling future that pulls you forward. So the more difficult thing that you're trying to do, the stronger vision that you have that pulls you towards it. Otherwise, you're not going to have the motivation to keep going when things get really rough, because the rough times are inescapable. Like, there is no coach, mentor, or mastermind that you can join that's going to eliminate the tough times. The only thing that the coach, mentors, and masterminds help you do is get through the tough times and survive. So it's like not how you enter the game, it's how you stay in the game. So there's a few different types of regret. And if I could answer this question in the macro for me 20 years from now, I think I'd still answer it the same way, which is I could already do anything I want in the world. And now I could take other people with me. So as I demonstrated with my birthday, I can do anything I want, when I want, with who I want. I can fly to Iceland tomorrow if I feel like it. And I have done that before. And it's not enough. And everybody will reach that to where it all comes, you flood the external to come all the way back to the internal. And it comes back to a regret conversation. On your deathbed, there's two different types of regret. There's the regret of things that you did that you wish you wouldn't have. And there's the regret of things that you didn't do that you wish you would have. And they did a survey of people that were on their deathbeds, and they asked them, 80% of them said that they regretted things that they hadn't done. Barely any of them could remember regretting the things that they had done because they had already made up or made amends for that. But a lot of it was, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have spent more time with my kids, or I wish I would have been more present, or I wish I would have talked to married this other person that I knew I was supposed to marry instead of settling. And so my life, I'm sent here divinely led from a spiritual perspective to help and serve at a massive scale. And so I'm willing to take that burden to pull that off.
I love that. Yeah. And I mean, you hear this story all the time, right? People that make the money and then they go on the trips and they buy the things and they're like, yeah.
Well, that's important because they're addicted to the things. So there's two different types of growth, right? So there's the growth through what I'm trying to do, growth through service, where I went from me to we. So the plot twist, like, this is, out of everyone I've spoken to, I know a lot of 100 millionaires, a lot of billionaires, and it's pretty confirmed across people. The views stop giving you dopamine. The things stop giving you dopamine. The cars stop giving you dopamine. But the one thing that doesn't is serving others. Cannot remove it. We're just hardwired for it. It's like physiological. It's spiritual. So if you help one person even a little bit, and then I'm like, dude, helping people at scale is even crazier. I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about like money is an amplifier of your true self.
It's an amplifier.
And so it's almost selfish if you have this desire and if others out there have a desire to help people and they want to stay small and they're comfortable helping one person. It's like, imagine what you could do if you actually went all in and made money, created abundance, and were able to help people at scale legitimately. Right. And then I know that there's people out there that are like, oh, that's just these gurus trying to scam and take money. And
there's a lot.
There are a lot.
But they're trying to cover their fixed expenses. So they're selling from a place of defense. I'm selling from offense.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, yo, like, I don't got expenses. I'm already good. I'm here to serve, dude. It's a different conversation when you got a mortgage on a $10 million house and you've got a Ferrari payment that you need to make because you're leasing it. And most of these people got like 6 Ferraris. And now all of a sudden their monthly burn is like $250,000.
Yeah.
And they got to get them course sales to pay for it. Whereas for me, I'm like, dude, everything is honky dory. Like, dude, I was in a room full of 479 multimillionaires. Average net worth was $16 million in that room. Average take home was $1 million and like 7,000. They said, who's financially free? I was one of maybe 20% that raised their hand.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because you just keep your expenses low.
Nobody else even thought about it.
Oh, interesting. Well, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So a lot of people that are traditionally wealthy, a lot of people in the room had like sold big companies or, you know, had really well-paying jobs and they're doctors and lawyers and had invested for 20 years as like LPs in multifamily or stuff like that. And none of them were really completely focused on their actual expenses. And so we did an exercise for people that were worth, like there were billionaires in the room. We literally did the same exercise that we take people through, which is like, how much do you spend? Because it doesn't matter what you put in the bucket. If there's holes in the bucket, it's going to leak out. And so we literally did that for 479 people, these multimillionaires and billionaires. And it was ridiculous, dude. There's 3 different numbers that you can pick. So from when it comes to your expenses, 3 different levels, and that's survive, arrive, and thrive. So survive is how much are your fixed expenses? The name of the game is how do we avoid as much as possible fixed expense and keep that as low as we can. Variable is okay because if most of my expense is variable. So push comes to shove, if they say, hey, you need to stop traveling in Europe real quick and come back home and hunker down, I can hunker down if I want to. Stop ordering DoorDash every meal, go get some groceries, I can do that. But if you have all of these giant bills to pay that are fixed bills, like you can't get out of them. So survive is how much your fixed expenses. Arrive is how much are your fixed plus some discretionary. You're going out to eat and doing some fun stuff. Thrive is how much for you to do whatever the hell you want to do. Period. Full stop. And so I did those numbers and we did them while we were there as well. So he has a different way of doing them, but survive, arrive, and thrive works best for me in our community. So we did those and then we started doing our dream life buckets. And that was interesting for me because that was a lot of those fixed expenses that I was like, oh, dude, that's not worth it. But I had somebody next to me that was a billionaire and he like, I was like, I don't need to do that. He goes, just so you know, like, that's like a grocery payment for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, got it. So while advice that I give to people isn't to focus on the material, I would also say, like, they did help me to create a dream life if anything was possible. And then for me, it ended up being, I think, like $4.5 million if I like could do anything I wanted in the world, which is having a $5 million house, flying private, having a yacht. I do want to have a yacht. So, and then having like private chef, live-in nanny, all this different stuff. Like there's so many things that you don't think about. And I like calculated it all for a family of 4. I was just like, so how much would I have to make for this to be inconsequential? Instead of me like being angry at it and thinking it was wasteful and thinking like this watch that I have right now is a $22,000 watch. And there was a period of my time where I thought that was wasteful. And there's today, I think like a $200,000 watch. I'm like, who would do that? But now I've kind of changed my thought to how can you do that and afford it comfortably? I'm just kind of curious, you know? And so I kind of changed my tune to that a little bit. So I'm working through that right now. And so I created a new framework for that because then I said, okay, well, for me to do 4.5 spending, then I'll need to take home 11 and then pre-tax, right? So I need to take home 11. So I'm taking home 11 at like a 40% EBITDA margin. Then I need to have like a $45 million a year business. It's like, okay, I think I could do that in 10 years. I was like, so wait a second, like there's a path here. Even to my wildest, dizziest daydream, there's a path here. It's like, okay, well, let's keep going down this rabbit hole. Is there a framework here? And so I created the V3 framework, which is vision, value, vehicle. And so it goes, what's the vision for your dream life? Value is how much does that dream life cost in different segments? So home, automotive, transportation, food, family, philanthropy, investing, all of this stuff. And so I literally wrote it all down. I was like, okay, cool. Well, here would be my vision. Here's how much it would cost. Tack on 50%, right? So that 11 million went to 20 million because I'm like, I also want to save 50%. So everything that I buy, I want to still save 50% of my income, right? And so that's where I got that 40% number for 45. And so I was like, oh, okay. So 45 million for my business is the number. And then you just work backwards from there. So that could sound overwhelming to some, but you can use that at the smallest scale. You can scale that up or down however you want to, but vision, value, vehicle, because then the vehicle is, okay, well, how am I going to accomplish this, right?
So how do you get people to dream that big?
Some are naturally more like attuned to it. Like that's my biggest thing. It's like my job on this earth is to have a vision that's so big that I could take people with big visions that I can fit them within mine. That's how you attract talent.
Did you get that from Alex?
No, I got that from Gary Keller.
Gary Keller. Okay. Yeah. Cause Dan says that too.
Yeah.
Create your dreams so big enough that others can fit underneath it.
Correct. So it's like hiring one-on-one because the level of mentor that appears to you will be in direct correlation to the level of the problem that you're solving.
Interesting.
Think about it. So you're buying hotels now. So say that you find a hotel mentor that's got $1 billion hospitality portfolio. And you say, Eric, or you say, Hospitality Hank,
Me and Hank.
I want you to mentor me to build up my portfolio. And then he's like, Kassidy, what are you buying? Tell me your vision. You go, I want to buy one Airbnb in Tucson, Arizona a year. You say, dude, take a long walk off a short pier. I'm not helping you with that. That's boring. But if you say, I want to build $1 billion portfolio in the next 4 years, you say, well, I've done that in 10. I wonder how you could do it in 4. I think I could help. And so that's my life, is I just create these giant goals because it attracts these giant mentors into my life because it's interesting to them. And if you want interesting people to hang out with you, I'm sorry, the cheat code is do interesting shit.
Yeah. 100%.
Period.
Yeah.
Do interesting things.
And it could be a different level of interesting, right? You could be really into Pokemon cards, and be a nerd about Pokemon cards and go hang out with other Pokemon card collectors. Like that's totally cool. But we're talking real estate business and bigger money and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And to like circle all the way back to you asked the original question, which was, what are the differences between where I'm at today and $10 million CEO? So I actually think a $10 million CEO is like small. Like that's just what I want to become next year. Like by the time I'm 40, I'll be used to multi 9 figures, like running through my P&L, like in a decade, like 1,000%. I think I can do it in 5 years, but for sure in a decade. So what I do is do this process called immersion yields conversion. That's my favorite quote. And what I do is whatever goal I have, I go surround myself and immerse myself in rooms of people that have all done the thing. And then the next thing I do is I look at what these people are doing and I document all of their actions, all of their habits, all of their ways of being, to the point of what time do they wake up? When do they go to bed? How are they moving? How do they speak on a podcast in real life? How do they treat people? Who's around them? And I take the actions that they're doing and I ask the multi-million-dollar question, which is, they're where I want to be. Here's where I'm at today. What are the differences between the two people? And then the discrepancies are what I do.
Yeah.
I just add them.
Yep. That's how I look at Dan. That's how I look at Rich. Like, I think Alex is your mentor, right? So you look at Alex, right? And this is exactly what I do. And I haven't gotten as good at it as you. You've executed at a higher level than I have on things. I can still be wishy-washy on which direction I want to go, but I'm working on that. But it's like, you need to be so honest with yourself about where you're at compared to where you want to be. And it's not comparison is the thief of joy type of stuff. We're not comparing to be.
Comparison is the blueprint.
Yes. Comparison is the blueprint. Exactly. And you need to apply it in the way that's most authentic to you, but also in ways that you've never done before, because that's the growth.
And here's the level 3000 of that, right? So you just said something that's super important that people will gloss over, where you say, comparison is not the thief of joy, comparison is the blueprint. So the difference between people that are in rooms of people doing 10 times, 100 times more than them, that get inspired and motivated by that versus the ones that shrink away from it, is this whole idea of imposter syndrome, right? They're like, I don't deserve to be here. I don't add any value to these people, blah, blah, blah. And you have this imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is ridiculous. The only way that you're an imposter is if you're in these rooms and you're pretending to be something that you're not, which none of us are doing. If you're not worth $100 million, nobody's going around and saying to other 100 millionaires, especially, that you're worth $100 million. Most people aren't doing that. So it's just like, if you're not doing that, you're not an imposter, you're an improver.
Exactly.
So you're just there to get better. And so that's how I view it, is I'm in those rooms and I don't get intimidated by it. I'm like, dude, I just want to be you. And so the reason that I have confidence is because I'm around them so much that I've documented everything that they do. And I go, well, reasonably. Here's what they would do differently that I'm not doing. And I just start doing those things. An example of this to give teeth to it. Our goal is to go from 2.3 million to 5 million this year in the business. Well, 5 million is the minimum goal. We actually want to get to 7. So I go to everyone that does 5 million a year and I'm like, okay, what do you do differently than me? And so they've got a really tight org chart. They have an operations team that's very, each person's in their lane. They have specialists, not generalists. They have a full media team. They're doing webinar funnels and they're doing CTA stories and they're doing all of these different strategies and all these different marketing plans. And they have people that are helping them do it on their team. I'm like, oh, it's just been me, dude. Like, and they're running ads. Like, I don't run ads. So I'm like, okay, well, let me take all of that stuff and now let's chunk it down into bite-sized pieces and how we want to implement and execute it. And piece by piece, we implement and we execute all the way until it's complete. But it's important not to do it all at once. So we solve problems in a vacuum, one solution at a time.
Love that. And so what's an example, like maybe the media team or the ads that you're running?
Yeah, I can tell you how not to do it because I just learned this lesson and it cost me $102,000. So had a problem with marketing, had the discrepancy between where I was and where I wanted to be, asked the people how to do it. And I was like, got it. I have resources and I'm going to throw all of them in the kitchen sink at this problem and I'm going to solve it. So I said, I'm going to hire a podcast guy. I'm going to hire an EA. I'm going to hire a creative director. I'm going to do YouTube. I'm going to do optimize our Instagram. We're going to do LinkedIn. We're going to do SMS. We're going to do email. I was like, we're going to tackle all of them at the same time because I've got resources. Because that's how I thought rich people do. Like you have resources, you got cash, you deploy the cash. And that's called reinvesting back into the business. Was the worst mistake I've ever made. Q1 was a dumpster fire because we were moving so many different directions that nothing got done. Ended up firing most of those people because in learning, coming away with the lesson of you want to solve problems in a vacuum because if you don't solve them in a vacuum, you don't know what's actually driving a result. So for instance, say that you're trying to buy new hotels and you're working through your acquisition funnel. And you reach out to like 40 new brokers, and 40 new brokers are bringing you deals, and you're doing direct mail, and you're doing SEO and PPC, and you're doing all these different strategies all at the same time. And all of a sudden, lead flow increases. You're like, well, what caused the lead flow to increase? You don't know. Because there's no magic lever that you can pull in marketing where you click a button and overnight you have the result. It normally takes about a solid 90 days to fully implement one marketing strategy. So now we solve every problem through a vacuum. Every single thing, to Dan's point, he does what's called the 1-3-1. So you have one problem, bring 3 solutions, and you have your recommended solution at the end. And so that's what we do now. And so I said, okay, so if we can only focus on one strategy for Q2, Instagram. That's where we're focusing. So all of our attention is to Instagram, making the best content, most quality content, most educational content, best stories, best everything, growing the brand, converting the brand. That's all we're focusing on. And then after 90 days, we evaluate and pivot if need be.
And so we've been talking a lot about the kind of the money that you're making and the goals and
the money that I'm burning.
But I want to mention something because it's also about the value that you're adding into the world, right? You talked about serving because you're doing things that other people aren't in this space, where you are actually changing people's lives. You're allowing them to quit their jobs and you're measuring it. You're actually measuring. I think I saw your end of year report that you put out. Like, tell me a little bit about what you're doing to actually help the people in your group and not just take their money and walk away.
Well, if people are paying you money, you got to provide like a massive economic ROI to them because that's where value comes from. So everybody thinks, oh, if somebody pays me $10,000 and I get them 30, that's a good deal. I'm like, no, like, because of risk. Like, you need to get them like $1 million. It needs to be like 100 to 1 for it to be a good value, right? So if somebody's paying you 10 grand, I'm like, how do I make them $1 million? Not even 100,000, like $1 million. So that's what we're focused on. So there's 2 different types of ROI when it comes to community. There's qualitative and quantitative. So quantitative is I made return on investment. So that's the numbers that you're alluding to. Is we have 3 metrics that we track more than anything in Action Academy, which is the the gross deal volume done, so total assets acquired, so just total acquisition. Then we have equity, net equity gain. Then we have cash flow added, which is monthly cash flow added. Across everything, we had $729,000 was the average acquisition in 2024, $196,000 net equity gain, and $48,000 was the net cash flow gain, not monthly, annual. So it breaks down to about $4,000 a month. And so that's what we track. And like where attention goes and where focus goes, energy flows. And so that's everything that we do. So that's the quantitative ROI. The qualitative ROI is getting them clear about, hey, like, what do you want out of life? Like, you're on an island, you need partners, you need all of these different people. So I can walk you through the process here, but the goal of Action Academy is in the beginning, everybody was renewing just because they freaking enjoyed it so much and they had that qualitative ROI. And they're like, dude, I've never been more clear and connected than I have been here in my life. And I've so supported. And they just renew for that. And I'm like, that's amazing. And let's make the economic ROI so wonderful that even if everybody was an asshole, you'd still renew.
Yeah.
So that's what we aim for. So we build everything for the lowest common denominator. So how do you build a community that's so good that even if everyone's an asshole, people would renew? And how do we build connection systems that are so good that even an introvert would do it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you build it for an extrovert, it's too simple. So the process that we take people through is called the CASH framework. I've spent a lot of time on that one. Yeah. So it's clarity, acquisition, scale, and high performance connection. So first things first, when somebody joins the community, in any community that people join, like all you're doing is what we're talking about, which is clarity and risk. So it's like, it's an inverse correlation. We want to maximize the clarity and reduce the risk as much as possible. And the only way that you do that is, again, getting into rooms where people have done what you wanted to do. And so that's what we build. So that's literally all we sell. It's just, hey, you're going to go spend 10 years networking on your own and trying to pick and choose like who's worth their salt. We'll just give it to you on a silver platter day one, right? That's community. And I invest heavily in communities myself. So clarity is number one. We have to slow down before we speed up. So let's get clear on that directional, sequential, tactical. Where are you going? Why are you doing this? Who are you as a person or as an operator? Like, how does your brain work? A lot of the times, these human beings that are full grown have never actually stopped and asked, what do I want? Why do I want it? And who am I? They don't know how they show up to other people. And so we give them extensive personality tests, and it's called the DISC profile. We take them through Enneagram. It's a bunch of different personality tests that we take them through. So we show them literally on paper, this is how your brain works. And this is how you partner with people. And this is how you show up. And here's who we recommend that you partner with that's adjacent to you. And so that's the first 30 days. It's just that. It's getting your clarity dialed in, accountability dialed in. We're getting you with a pod. And then lastly, we're doing a one-on-one coaching call to make sure that your asset class is chosen. You're dialed in on your habits. You're just crystal clear, ready to go out like a cannon. All right, that's first 30 days. Next 60 to 90 days after that's acquisition. So it goes clarity, acquisition. Now you have to learn this stuff. So this is the meat and potatoes. This is like you rolling up your sleeves and getting into freaking spreadsheets. You got to learn enough to become dangerous across everything. So we condense freaking 6 years of real estate and business knowledge into 60 days. And it's intense, but that's what's required for you to do it. It's your Rocky cutscene. But then after you underwrite 100 deals, you talk to 100 brokers, submit like 10 to 30 offers, you feel pretty good. And now all of a sudden you're a confident investor. Even people that are coming in with like a rental property are now comfortably offering on $5 million deals. It's insane every single time. So then it goes into scale, which is like the hard stuff. So now we're like, okay, now how do you actually go through this and now build an acquisitions team to help you do it and to get out of this and start closing some stuff. So that way we can take over the asset and then start scaling the portfolio, scaling your businesses. And then that leads to the last H, which is just high performance connection. Once somebody's at that point, then who they need is whose. So we're like, okay, cool. Let's start trying to connect you with different operators, partners, capital, investors, all of these different people. So my goal is to build it into a decade-long relationship. And it's a freaking hard thing to do. It's way easier to just do a quick like 2-year thing. But I want to keep people for a decade. Because I've got guys that came in and girls that came in that were like, yo, I don't know about real estate investing. And now they've got like 300 doors in 2 years. And I'm like, how do we keep that person at 3,000 doors So what they're still pouring back into the people from day one, and they can say, I was here from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's the intention. So I view it like a crock pot where it simmers.
Yeah. I love your approach to everything. And I don't know if all that comes across in your content. Like
something I'm working on.
Like it's interesting because everything that you say, I think you're doing it totally different than everybody else. And I think you're doing it with a lot of like really like a huge heart. Yeah. But I don't know if that comes across in the content.
Well, tell me more.
I don't know. And I know you.
I'm working on my content. I
think your content's great. I think your content's great.
Up to this point, it's been like, we're actually struggling because we've been flatlined for a year. And so now I'm trying to change the content up actually as we're talking about this to more so do this stuff because our best leads come from podcasts because we're actually talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to convey it in a 60-second video.
Yeah, and I'm not the content master. I just know, and your content's great. I think your content's great. I know you need to generate leads. And so that's a different thing than just like creating videos for Brian. But I don't know, maybe I think understanding more where your heart is and why you're doing this and actually how you do it without describing every single little detail. That's the complicated part, right? But the fact that you measure it, the fact that you almost have like a guarantee.
Yeah.
And I'm in other communities and I help out in other communities and I'll help close. And they'll call me, people that are getting ready to call and close. They'll be like, oh, what are all the shiny objects I get? And it's like, well, yeah, you're going to get the analyzer. You're going to get this. But really it's like, you're going to get people that are going to accelerate. You will buy a hotel. You will become financially free if all you do is follow the course of action in this community. But I don't think a lot of other people do it the way that you're doing it. Right. And like Dan will say, simple scales, complex fails. But yours is not necessarily simple, but it's so effective.
Yeah. I mean, we track our stuff, man. Like, yeah, like we really pay attention. Even to the small stuff that we do, like a connection concierge. Like nobody else does that.
No.
So like we have Caitlin in there, like, like she's in there full time. Like her job is to connect people.
Yes.
And like good connections. They're like, hey, you are doing this and you're doing this glamping resort. Like you guys should meet. And they're like, oh, yeah, we should. Dude, I pay $85,000 for one mastermind that I'm in. And I'm like, dude, if I had somebody where I could go, like one position full time that I could go to and say, here's who I need to talk to. Who's the person in this group? And they introduce me. Dude, that'd be worth the $85,000 alone.
Yeah, because
it's insane that nobody else is doing this.
Because that will generate a business opportunity where you're going to 10x whatever money that you invest in that, right?
I'm in EO, I'm in GoBundance, I'm in Tony Robbins Platinum Partners, and nobody else does this. And so what happens is you join all these groups and you have these thousands of people and you're like, well, now what? I'm an extroverted guy, but even I'm overwhelmed, so I don't do anything.
Yeah.
A confused mind doesn't take action.
That's right. I love that. And so what are you personally buying right now?
Small businesses. I need to start buying real estate again because my tax bill.
You've heard depreciation.
Well, here's the problem. So I'm not a real estate pro.
Yeah.
So it's a conversation worth having. If you're watching this and you're a beautiful Latin woman, I need a wife that is a real estate pro or wants to become one.
Which here, let me stop you. This is the biggest hack. Like I know you're kind of joking, but you're not because this is the biggest.
Whoever I marry has to do it in some it has to happen.
This is the biggest wealth hack. Is you have one person that is generating a ton of money through a business, and then one person that's a real estate professional. Even
if she does like design or something, like for Airbnbs or something, she has to be. I'll be like, build whatever business you want to build. I will support it. I really need you to have 750 hours of material participation a year. So I say as I'm about to spend $250,000 on my tax bill. I buy small businesses today and I reinvest back into Action Academy. So that's what I do today because I have a lot of access to everything, always, all the time. And real estate's just frankly boring to me when I could buy a small business. So for example, if I'm sitting here with $500,000 in cash, right? And you say, okay, Brian, you can put $500,000 towards this hotel, this glamping resort, or towards this small business that is a $5 million business that is extraordinarily operational. That thing would cash flow me, dude, minimum 50% cash on cash return annual. And I just know the game.
And then that turns into a multiple. Also.
And that turns into a multiple at exit. And I could compound my wealth so fast, dude. My goal is to buy a business a quarter. So I've got a business that we're closing on next week. I've got a business that we're already technically closed on. It's a franchise of a gym in Nashville. And so we're opening that. We just signed the lease and we're opening that in September, I believe. So that's when we'll actually like celebrate and everything, when it's like opening day. But yeah, dude, right now I'm just like, the best way to build wealth. So concentration builds wealth, diversification keeps it. And so right now I'm just like really focused on building Action Academy itself as the business. And then I take all of the profits from Action Academy and I just reinvest it back into our members through more people, more processes, or just like me partnering with them on deals. So it's just like, it's amazing. So I've got all these access, but if I could wave a magic wand in the next 5 years, like I want to do $1 million of passive business distributions, and I want to own like hospitality and residential assisted living.
Yeah, you've been talking to Alex.
Yeah, dude. Alex is really good people. Residential assisted living is really interesting. So the asset classes, if you were to ask me what asset classes are like the asset classes, because I haven't podcast where I interview multimillionaires every single day for 3 years. And that's all I talk to is those people. I would say over the next 10 years, residential assisted living, experiential and boutique hospitality, triple net lease industrial, steel box, container like service garages or something like that. Just the least sexy triple net lease stuff. And then small service businesses that are healthy at over $2 million purchase price, that have like a strong operational staff and 7+ years of growing profits, not declining profits.
I want everyone to listen to what Brian just said, because Brian's a really smart guy. He knows his stuff. And I agree with everything that he just said. Residential assisted living will be the next big boom.
I think so.
Number one.
I think
too many baby boomers.
I think a 40 year boom. I think from what we've seen in multifamily over the last 20 years, that's going to be residential. And I think the people that do experiential and boutique hospitality right will experience that same thing.
Yep.
I'm liking what you did with the boutique. I'm liking glamping. I'm liking experiential stays.
Yep.
Private equity's buying them up like crazy.
Yep.
I like them. And they're fun. But so what I want to do is I want to buy a flagship hotel. So this is on my list. So I want to be able to build a cash flow vehicle so much that I can start buying my commercial real estate in cash. That's what I want. Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
Yeah, but it's a goal.
But it's what I want to do.
Yep.
I could go raise millions of dollars today. I think I could send an email. If you gave me the right deal, I could send an email, raise $20 million within a week. Like, I could. I don't want to.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible. I think it's a good path to wealth for people, but I don't want to do it that way. For me personally, I would rather say, okay, I'm going to build up this big cash vehicle, and then I want to go reinvest that as a large like capital partner into other deals where I don't have to be the one operating them. And then I also don't have to deal with raising the funds, doing all that. There's going to be a point where I have a fund, 1,000%, but not in the short term, maybe in the midterm, maybe in the next like 3 to 5 years, possibly. But my goal is I want to own a top 50 hotel in the world, and I want it to be called the Sexton after my family. And I want it to be like this flagship boutique, maybe 40 key hotel that's just like otherworldly with like the views from each room and just like pure luxury. I want to buy that thing in freaking cash. Oh, dude, like, and just be like, this is my legacy property.
Yeah, I love that. And it would probably still crush it financially if you do it right too.
Oh, yeah, I'll do it right. Yeah.
I was just having this conversation around creating art. I was talking to Isaac French, who did Live Oak Lake.
Can you introduce me? I want to have him on the podcast.
Yeah.
He's here, right? He's in Austin.
He's in Waco, but he comes to Austin quite a bit.
Yeah.
And
it's worth it for him to come up for us to do that. That'd be good.
100%. And he's doing more content and he's getting more into podcasts. We went deep on design and art and creating, and like what he did on Live Oak Lake is totally different than what other people do in terms of like walking the land and finding that. And like, we talked a lot on ROI of design and how there's a lot of people focused on ROI of design, but with creating these types of experiential resorts, it's like,
it's a necessity. It's a necessity.
Yeah.
Your short-term rentals will die. Your short-term rentals will die if you do not differentiate.
Yes.
Like, period, full stop, bar none. Like, across the board, people are screaming for uniqueness. You have to go with the contrarian wave, and like people are screaming for it. And when I'm looking at to stay, like, let me back up for a second. There's 3 markets that you can market to. So you can market to the budget, the middle, or the premium market. Budget is a race to zero. The medium, the middle market, is completely dependent on the fluctuations of the economy. The premium market is static. They're always going to be a premium market. So the rich are getting richer. Solve rich people problems.
Yeah, solve rich people problems. Airbnbs have become so commoditized and it's so transactional with hosts. People don't want to stay there anymore. Places like the Ritz, the Four Seasons, like these places, they charge $1,500 a night,
That's all I
$2,000
stay at now.
Yeah, and you got your St. Regis Aspen hat on, right?
Yeah.
And so what people don't realize, like what you just mentioned, their rates are so high. They're probably 200, 300% of their break-even point, right? So even if the market tanks, luxury travelers still want to stay in luxury places. And so if they're charging $2,000 a night, if we get into an '08 recession, they're charging $1,000 a night, they're still making a ton of money.
Correct. And so the biggest difference between, so we at Action Academy, like our one of our mission statements is, until we run this like a Ritz, we can't buy a Ritz. So,
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like we say it's like the 5-star hotel energy.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what we do. So I've traveled all around the world, and I've got a list of the top 100 hotels that I'm stayed at. And I'm like taking each one off the list. And so there's 100,000 different top 100 hotel lists. I just have mine in particular that I've created, I'm curating over time. And eventually I'll make it like a thing that I send to people and stuff. But I want it to be like iconic, otherworldly. Every single location is a place that cannot be duplicated anywhere else. And I go to these places, I stay at them. Some are $1,000 a night, $2,000 a night, $5,000 a night. Like, it's insane, dude. And like last year was the first time that I ever spent $1,000 a night on a hotel room. And now that's something that I can do normally. And now I've done a $2,000 a night one, and I got upgraded. The coolest time of my life, sidebar, was I went to the Myborn Riviera in Monaco, and I got upgraded to a $5,000 a night duplex suite. And it was the best day of my life staying there.
Yeah.
It changed how I viewed life in the world. To be looking down over Monaco in this floor to ceiling panorama thing, it was like insane, dude. And as I go to these different hotels, I literally meet with their service staff. I interview everyone from the operations team to the guest services to the guys at the door. I've been to Egypt, I've been to Dubai, I've been to freaking all over Europe. And the differences between 4-star and 5-star are honestly the amount of bodies.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it.
Yep.
One of the major differences is the amount of bodies, the amount of amenities and the amount of bodies. So they just have so many more staff. It's like a 2-to-1 staff to guest ratio.
Yeah. So
they have like 2 butlers per floor versus like one person that's managing the entire hotel. It's interesting.
That's right. And that's where I'm at right now and wanting to change, syndicating just, these regular boutique hotels, right, into creating these other types of experiences.
I just have no interest in it. I have no interest in doing the syndication. Let's go get this hotel, 3 to 5 years, we're going to exit. Doesn't wet my whistle. Don't care. I don't care what the return is. I don't want to do it.
You and I had that conversation in Whistler, and that really changed my perspective, especially if, let's say I do have to go raise money and I'm trying to attract people like you and others. Well, they're not going to want the standard box. I
care about the mission. I care about I want to point at something and say, I own that.
Yes. And be proud of it. And people gasp when because they love that. Mm-hmm. They love that resort. They love that piece so much.
Yeah.
So
the Sexton is going to be something that people travel out of state to come to.
That's right.
I want it to be something that people travel when they're visiting like out of the country. So
that's right.
I've got this whole vision. It's funny. I say it out loud because I'm curious to see if it plays out like this. I've got an idea. I had a dream. Let's see how it plays out. I had a dream that the Sexton was this resort in like Mexico or Latin America, right? And I'm buying it like right on the coast. It's like on a cliff overlooking the water. And it's just like this is going to be the pinnacle of 5-star luxury. Maybe it's in 5 years, 10 years, whenever I'm doing that. Maybe next year, who knows? And then I'm talking to like the developer or the broker that's there. And then he just has his daughter there in the office and she's running everything. And we lock eyes. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, mi amor, And we have babies.
Just on the site of your future hotel.
On the side of my future hotel. And then we're just like, that's how we meet. I don't know. I had a dream.
I think you should manifest that. I
had a dream, so I'll talk about it on podcast, and I'm curious to see how it happens. Maybe I meet her at fucking Starbucks.
yeah, maybe.
But maybe I think that one's more likely.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that being married and being with my wife and who she is and the partnership that we've created has been one of the most amazing things that we've ever done. And it's the most important decision you can make in your life.
Yeah, it's the one thing that I'm focusing on. Dude, I want to plant my flag in the ground. I disagree with conventional advice, I think. Because...
I'm not surprised, Brian.
Yeah. So
you disagree with conventional advice.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Because every aspect of my life, I write it down and I focus on it and I make it happen. That's how vision works for me. I'm like, you don't write down, or even from a spiritual context, you don't pray. Like, so there's this story about a guy on a freaking roof, and the house is flooding and everything is flooding. He goes, God, save me. And all of a sudden this boat comes by and he goes, no, not you. God's waiting for God to save me. And a helicopter comes by. He goes, no, not you. I'm waiting for God to save me. And finally he just floods and dies. He's in heaven. And God, where were you? He goes, dude, I sent you a freaking boat and a helicopter. You got to act, dude. And so I think that's applicable for the universe, God, whatever you believe. And so I write down all of this stuff. And I wrote down who my wife is and how she moves and how she operates and what I respect and admire about her and what I'm attracted to about her. And everyone says, well, man, you can't focus on that at all. It comes when you're not looking.
Yeah.
It comes when you're not looking. And I'm like, I get that, and challenge it slightly. What I think people mean by that is, you're not going to attract your spouse if you're off kilter, if you're off center. If you have your morals, your values, and your mission, and you veer away in pursuit and you're chasing, I think that is incorrect. You're not going to attract your wife that way. But if you are freaking mission-led, vision-led, you're like, this is what I'm put on earth to do, and it is a primary focus of me to attract the freaking love of my life in this vision, and I'm focusing on it, I'm actively working towards it, I don't see how that doesn't work. I think me ignoring it and acting like it doesn't matter to me is ridiculous. It's a primary focus for me. It's like that green light, it's like the bat signal is out there, but it's like a bottle of tequila.
The bat signal is the bottle of tequila. Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I met my wife 6 months after a breakup. And in that 6 months, I focused only on myself. Yeah. And it was, at the time, it was the most like authentic version of myself that I'd ever been up to that point. Yeah. And I agree with you. You're not looking for it, but it's because you're focused on yourself. It doesn't mean that you're not thinking about or wanting it or desiring it. You're not chasing it. You're not gripping onto it. You're not
chasing it, but it doesn't mean that you're not focused on it, but you're not actively chasing it. Maybe adding this, chasing it to the detriment of other areas of your life that are important, because I think that a partner that's worth it is going to respect someone that's grounded and centered.
Yeah, and has boundaries and
mission led. I remember I watched a video with McConaughey, and he was like 37, 38 years old. And he goes, dude, I just had to come to terms with I'd never been in love. He goes, I was Magic Mike. I was world's sexiest man and movie star. And he's like, I still hadn't found her.
Yeah. And
he goes, and then I had a vision where I was, an 80-year-old bachelor, and I was okay with that.
Yeah. I
was like, damn, Matthew. Like, that made me feel better. Because it's easier to get dates, but it's harder to find a connection. And everybody that gives me advice found their wife when they were like 20. And I'm like, dude, yeah, you're worth $40 million now, but like, you found her when you were 20. It's a different story now.
Yeah. I was so focused on myself, and I think that's what did it. I mean, I'm not giving you advice because I don't have, I agree.
But I do that too. I focus on me, and every day I try to get better and be better and work towards the ideal version of me, and improve as a business owner, as a man, as a friend, physically, emotionally, spiritually.
I can feel it.
Am I Spanish?
Yeah, you're Spanish. I know you practice that.
Estoy practicando, estoy aprendiendo.
See, I don't know. I can't understand. No comprende. I want to ask one more question because on the Whistler trip, you had recently posted a video of you getting your dream apartment. And I think you spent $5,000 a month on that thing. $6,000 a month, which a lot of people hear that and they're like, I can't believe that. But I think we talked about your fixed expenses. It's low in comparison to your income and all that. And that video of you giving the tour of your dream apartment, I think you got lit up, right? The internet destroyed you. And so whether it's that video or other content, how do you deal with the haters out there?
You just ignore them. Because I mean, so the thing is, like, if you're triggered by them, it's because there's an element of truth to it. But if someone is just like, you have to view it almost from a sympathetic point of view, for through two different lenses. One lens is they don't know you. So they have been burned by somebody like you in the past, and therefore are taking it out on you as a reflection of their prior experience, because how we react to anything or anyone in the world is based off of our past experience. Otherwise, we have like if you're walking down a dark alley at night and somebody's creeping up on you, like you've had a past, it's not somebody offering you flowers in your past. Like, okay, like what's happening here? So it's the same thing. People see me online and they're like, oh, I've seen this guy before, they think. Or another thing is that they are just so miserable as a human that they are taking your success and they're trying to come up with a way to validate it so that they don't feel as bad about themselves for not accomplishing what they want to do. So either way, it's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Even people that know you and they do something, like, it still most of the time has nothing to do with you. Yeah. It's in the book, Four Agreements.
The Four Agreements.
It's a really good book.
Yeah.
That's how I handled the haters. But yeah, it was hilarious, dude. I take my people through my apartment and I was just like, yeah, this is where I live. And I wake up to the sunlight in the morning, sunrise in the morning. And the comments were, look at this dumbass. This apartment is west facing. Like, there's no sunrise. I'm like, dude, I was talking about when I wake up in the morning and the sunlight's there. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, people want to hang on to the weirdest stuff.
People want to hang out to the weirdest stuff.
They need bigger problems, is my opinion. Like, when I see that stuff, I'm like, you guys need bigger problems.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's and getting that spot was a big move for me. I was paying $2,300 for a good apartment. It was a perfect apartment. It was fine. But then Rich actually gave me something and he goes, dude, you should want to enjoy your view home as much as you enjoy your view when you're traveling. That'll convince you to be home more. That checks out. And so I spent $6,000. So it's a $1.5 million condo. Everyone's like, this guy's not making enough money through his course. He can't buy it. But dude, that's $300,000 down. Like, my velocity of capital on that investing is so much better, dude. I just want to rent. I'll freaking rent until I've got a pregnant wife and we're about to have kids and a dog. Then I'll buy a dream house and then I'll just be like, pick, baby. And then we'll just pick whatever she wants. But up until that point, I'm going to rent because like I can save my money. And now when I go home, I'm just like, wow, like I genuinely enjoy it as much as when I travel. And it keeps me in Austin because I'm like, dude, there's no a better view I can find anywhere besides the view that I have. And matters a lot to me. And now that's where I work. It's where I live. I spend so much time up there and it doesn't get old. Yeah. Got a floor to ceiling panorama view of the bridge, the water. I get a sunset every night. Dude.
Sunset, not sunrise.
Sunset. Yeah. Intentionally. I love sunsets.
Yeah. I love that, dude. We just closed on our primary. We sold our house and we're renting now. And it's the same thing. Like, don't have to worry about anything. We love it. It's bigger. It would be a $2 million house. Right. And I've done the math. I won't run through all the details right now, but I've done the math of if you rent in our area or in Austin, like your same apartment, and then
the monthly payment be.
Oh yeah. Well, and then just even a wealth, if you extrapolate that, okay, let's take that $300,000, go put it into a hotel. You triple that money. You're basically making $1 million by reinvesting the money that you would have spent on buying the property.
Yeah, no, if somebody has cash and they've got no other investment thesis to use the cash for, then yeah, most people, like however many millionaires there are in America, I think there's probably 80% of them aren't even like investors or business owners. It's just people that bought a $400,000 house in 2000.
Yeah.
And now it's worth 1.2.
Yep.
And it's paid off.
Yep.
Or like worth 2 million.
Yep.
That's most millionaires.
Yeah. Or their 401k or whatever.
Or their combo of the two.
Yeah.
Most Americans' net worth is completely tied up in their primary. That doesn't generate them cash flow.
That's right. It's a liability still.
Dude, crazy. So I saw Tony Robbins' balance sheet, and so I won't like describe like the personal stuff of it, but it's crazy because he has like $37 million of primary, which is all documented, and none of those are on his balance sheet.
Yeah.
Because it's like they're not investments.
No, and
he doesn't even count them in his net worth.
No, and you're not supposed to technically.
You're technically not supposed to. I think, look, okay, if you're actually doing a PFS, like, dude, I think equity in your home is fine to include, but I get the argument, especially for accreditation, where it's like your primary isn't generating money, it's not an investment, blah, blah, blah. I get it.
You can't liquidate as easily too, because you got to live somewhere.
Because then where are you going to live? And that's what he said too. And then he's like, so if I were to sell this, he's like, I'm not going to go get something worse.
Yeah. Unless you're in a bad spot, but
he's like, where am I going to move?
I think it's a good practice to do both. I mean, just do both and see where you're at, and just understand you can't liquidate your primary as easily as you might think you can, and you have to go rent.
Pull that HELOC, baby.
Yeah,
dude, I'm about to start doing freaking index funds and just leveraging those.
Yeah,
it sucks, dude. I'm like, I just want to keep buying businesses. I don't know. We'll see.
You should. I mean, that's the thing though with limitless choices, man. You gotta decide what you want.
Self-constraint.
So, yeah. All right, dude. This has been incredible. I really appreciate you coming down. I think people got a lot out of this one. I know I got a lot. And I just want to see you keep growing. I want to see you be a $10, $100 million CEO. I appreciate what you've done for me. And where can people get in touch with you, get in contact? How can they connect?
Action Academy podcast, talking to a microphone every day for 3 years across 41 countries, 17 time zones. So I interview millionaires, billionaires, ask them how to do financial freedom. So you guys should go check that out. That's where I talk. And if you listen to a few episodes of the podcast and you want more, there's options there.
Yep. All right. And then on Instagram at Brian Luebben, but go to Action Academy podcast. All the info will be there. And as always, everybody, appreciate you. Love you. This has been For Your Own Good. Peace.